Hello, Amy Scruggs here. It is my favorite time of the week. It is Wednesday, and it's time for the Nashville Weekly Update with the amazing Burnett Group, Matt and Marty Burnett. If you have followed us before, you're going to see they've always had incredible information and great guests, and today is no different. We're so thankful to have Cody Watts with us today with Firefly Insurance Agency. So want to bring up that a lot of people do a lot of things online. In today's world, it's easy. We can get everything from our groceries, to our socks and everything delivered right to us online. But when it comes time to the entire part of the real estate transaction, a lot of that should not be handled online. We talk about working with professionals. Matt and Marty, why don't you talk with us and introduce Cody to us and talk about why this should not be an online purchase?
Absolutely. Yeah. Good morning or afternoon, whatever it is.
Midday.
Midday. Mr. Cody Watts is he's a friend of ours and also a trusted insurance advisor, and so he works with us and our clients on a lot of different things, and it's really good to be able to call up somebody and ask a question or run something past them as far as insurance, because it is really important, and it's not just, you don't just go online and click buy insurance for my house and be done with it. There's several things that go along with it.
Yeah, insurance is one of those things that you don't think about until you need it. And then when you need it, it's like, and so I just feel like that's one of those things, again, that you want to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody about, like something happens. I want to be able to pick up the phone and call Cody. I want to be able to talk to somebody. That computer's not going to be there to do much for you when your house floods or something like that happens. You want to be able to pick up the phone and say, what do I do?
Well, Cody, thank you for being with us. We want to jump in with you because you're the expert in this category. Let's start with those basics and why it's so important that they come to a professional like yourself directly when starting out to question their insurance needs.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk to you guys about insurance. So one of the main things about insurance and why you need an agent is because most of us don't understand the nuances of insurance. Most people don't even understand the basics of insurance. And so it's super important to have somebody that you know and trust that has your best interest at heart, especially when searching for homeowners insurance. Because there are so many things that people don't understand about liability, and do I have enough coverage for my personal property? What about my swimming pool? Whatever else it is, people don't know that if you don't inform the insurance company about what you have, you are not covered for that thing.
Well, let's talk about some of the, let's say, misconceptions that people, tend to maybe underinsure themselves. What are the common things that you see happen and mistakes people make when trying to figure out what insurance they need?
So liability is a big one. There's no one that owns a house that needs less than $300,000 in liability. And I see people all the time will come in here with $100,000, and it's just simply not enough. That's one. And most people need even more than that, but the 300 is the minimum. And then the other thing is pertinent structures or outdoor buildings, whatever. And that also includes your swimming pool, your deck, your fence. People won't have enough coverage there. Nowadays, you usually have enough coverage for the actual structure. It's just the other things that are not covered properly.
Matt and Marty, what do you see as far as your communication with Cody and with your clients, how all this pairs together and how you guys can advise better?
Well, like one thing, you mentioned other things. What are other things, like a pool or a trampoline or like jewelry maybe, or special, if you got collectibles or something?
Yeah. What are some things that like people would, I guess for me, like would not think to list on their homeowners insurance?
Yeah, I didn't think of the trampoline. Good question.
Yeah.
We just got one of those.
Speaking of, Cody, we got a trampoline.
Speaking of, I had that trampoline.
So what I was just about to say with the trampolines are super funny. There's some companies that won't even take your house with a trampoline. And then there are others who almost all of them have the same rules where it either has to be fenced or it has to have a net around it. It has to be staked down to the ground. because if you don't and the wind comes, it will pick the trampoline up, and
Oh my gosh.
the projectile, my neighbor's trampoline took out my fence last year. And that's just not a fun thing, you know. But other things are a pool or a storage building or barn or carport. And people don't think to say, well, yeah, I have that, and there is value there. So in the event of a loss or a claim, they just simply don't have enough coverage.
What about natural disaster issues? Like here in California, earthquake insurance is a big conversation. What do you guys have there in Tennessee that people really need to take a look at?
So here, the biggest thing is sinkhole coverage, and almost no one that I see has sinkhole coverage, and it's pretty cheap coverage. Not to get too deep into this, but
Pun intended.
yeah.
Good one.
Not to sinkhole too deep into this one, but
Right.
I love Marty. Go.
The ground movement is not covered under any normal policy. Sinkhole slides in and provides you that coverage if you have ground movement issues, where you would have no coverage otherwise. And the other one would be flood. You either need it,
right.
and the flood people will tell you almost everyone needs it, because flood is water moving across the top of the ground, and that can happen to almost anybody. Even I live way up on a hill, but water could still come into my house sliding across in a flash flood. You know, it wouldn't normally flood, like the river wouldn't exceed its banks and flood my house, but I might have water running across the top of the ground that could do that.
What about tornadoes?
Yeah, tornadoes. But tornadoes are covered. Most policies in Tennessee are HO3 policies, which means almost nothing to normal people. But it is it's a homeowner's policy that covers most risks, and there are a few risks that aren't covered on it. And earthquake, flood, and sinkhole are those three that you would need to add.
Just in regard to like home ownership, and, you know, we get a lot of people that are coming in and, you know, purchasing, buying, selling, whatnot. I know the insurance deal has kind of changed a little bit in just the process of home buying. And because I've had a lot of my homeowners, even ones that have bought and sold before, they're like, wait a minute, they're telling me I need to look at my homeowner's insurance, like, you know, immediately. Because once you get it, you pay the premium and you kind of forget about it. So when you come still like buying and selling, that it comes back up, you know. So what I'm seeing is that people are having to nail their homeowner's insurance earlier in the process, like almost at the very beginning. They have to deem who their insurer is. What's the change? You know, why the change in that? I'm just curious.
I think a lot of that has to do with what happened with the federal government taking a larger role in how you guys do your jobs, and how the mortgage brokers do their jobs, because everything has to be so upfront and timely and those things. And I think what happens is, if you estimate that your homeowner's insurance is going to be $800, but you just pulled that out of thin air, and it ends up being $1,200, that creates an issue. And so, yes, I should be the second phone call that people make. After they talk to you, I'm next. And they pick a house, they should call me next. Let me run a quote and just see what it's going to be, so that everybody is on the same page with the same numbers and there's no surprises on the back end.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've just seen that happening a lot earlier in the process, which I like, because then that's one less thing they got to do at the end, you know, when you're scurrying around trying to change over utilities and all that kind of stuff. And we've started to kind of touch on this, but can we talk just a little bit about like interior contents? I know, like if they're doing condos or whatnot, you know, that's a different deal. If your HOA has your exterior insurance, and we can talk a little bit about that as well, because I think people have questions about, like, if the HOA covers the outside, what do I need? And I can see where there might be a gap there between what the HOA covers and what you actually, quote, have to have? And then how do you fill that gap if there is a gap between that?
So you can always buy as much insurance as you want and speaking of condos or townhomes, on the dwelling A coverage, which is the main coverage in most policies. On a condo or townhome, that's going to be a small number instead of the biggest number, or one of the biggest numbers. But how you fill that gap is by adding on to that dwelling A coverage. And you guys know that if the association is covering the entire building, which a lot of times they will, you don't necessarily need dwelling A coverage, but almost all carriers base their rates off of beginning with dwelling A. And so they make you have something with 10,000, 15,000 or whatever. And most of the time that's great. And then with personal property, that's where it gets a little trickier because people don't think about all that they have. When you start adding up your clothes and your couches and your silverware and your dish towels and just the little things that you don't think about that much, that number can get pretty big. And a lot of people are underinsured on their personal property on condos and townhomes. And the other way to do it is additions and alterations. So if that's another type of coverage that most condo owners don't realize that they need, and it's pretty complicated to talk about additions and alterations and what all it does because it is so broad.
Well, it just reinforces why you need to call the experts like Cody. Go to Matt and Marty. They're going to get you to Cody because it is complicated. And you've listed so many things that, most people, they're excited about the home process. There's so much going on. They got to pack, they got to move. There's everything going on in a home buying process that's already stressful. They shouldn't be stressed worrying about their insurance. They need to come to you where you're going to lay it out for them and say, this is what it is, right?
Absolutely. And if it's not me, it's another insurance agent. It is. I hope you call me, but if you don't,
we do too.
Yeah, they are. It is our job to make sure that you are as well informed as you can be and covered to the best of our ability and your ability. That is what our job is, and everyone should make sure that if you don't understand insurance, you have an insurance agent that you trust.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to know, you have a phone call from somebody that says, my house has been, we had a pipe bust, everything's flooded, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you start looking at it and you're like, crap, they don't have enough coverage to cover this, cover that, blah, blah. For me, and again, I think insurance is something people don't think about until they need it. And then it's too daggum late to get what you need. Yeah. So I think this is something people should spend more time on and understand the ins and outs of what's covered, what's not, because once you need it, it's too late. You can't change them. Right.
Yeah.
Now, with this being the year of the cicada, is that covered for homeowners? Does there cicada coverage coming up?
I don't think that I have ever seen anything about that, and I appreciate you stumping me right out in the open.
Follow back up with us about the cicada coverage.
Yeah, I'll follow back. I'll circle back. How's that?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Fantastic information. Matt and Marty, you guys always just bring in the best professionals. Cody really opened our eyes to stuff. And Matt and Marty, now when I come back and visit, I'm going to make sure that trampoline is bolted down.
Yes.
Don't have any issues. Want to make sure everybody is safe. And I know that you guys do such a great job making sure that your clients are always protected and safe in every category. Thanks for the fun and great information today, all of you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks, Cody.
Thank you.